There's a specific kind of energy that makes people think twice before disrespecting you, and it has nothing to do with anger, revenge, or being harsh. Some people can walk into any room, and without raising their voice, without threatening anyone, without even trying, people simply don't cross them. They don't get talked over. They don't get taken advantage of. They don't get treated carelessly. And then there are people who seem to attract disrespect everywhere they go, no matter how kind, patient, or accommodating they are. The difference between these two types of people isn't personality. It isn't luck. It's something deeper, an internal shift that changes how your entire presence is felt by others before a single word is even spoken. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how to build this kind of quiet, unshakable presence, the kind that makes disrespect feel almost impossible for people to justify to themselves, without you ever needing to become cold, aggressive, or someone you're not. Stay with me till the very end, because the final piece is what makes this transformation permanent. Why disrespect always targets a specific kind of energy. Let's start with an uncomfortable truth. Disrespect rarely happens randomly. It almost always targets a specific energy, one that unconsciously signals to others, "You can get away with this with me." This isn't about blaming anyone for being mistreated. Nobody deserves disrespect, ever. But understanding why certain people seem to attract it repeatedly is essential if you want to change this pattern permanently, rather than just reacting to disrespect after it happens. Here's what's really going on beneath the surface. People, often without even realizing it themselves, constantly scan the energy of those around them. This isn't some mystical process. It's simple human psychology. We read body language, tone of voice, how quickly someone backs down, how easily someone accepts blame that isn't theirs, how often someone apologizes unnecessarily. All of this creates an unconscious impression, one that either signals this person has strong boundaries or this person is easy to walk over. Think about people you know personally who rarely get disrespected. Notice how they carry themselves. They're usually not the loudest or most aggressive people in the room. In fact, many of them are calm, even soft-spoken. But there's something steady underneath their presence. A quiet sense of self-assurance that makes people naturally hesitate before crossing them. Now think about the opposite. People who seem to constantly attract disrespect, being talked over, having their time disregarded, being blamed unfairly, often share certain patterns as well. They tend to over-apologize, even for things that aren't their fault. They shrink their opinions in conversations, quickly backing down the moment someone disagrees. They tolerate small boundary violations repeatedly, hoping the other person will eventually change without ever being directly confronted. Here's the crucial insight most people miss. Disrespect isn't just about what someone else decides to do. It's often an unconscious response to the energy you're putting out. Whether that energy communicates "I value and protect myself," or "I'll tolerate almost anything to avoid conflict." This doesn't mean you caused someone's poor behavior, or that you're responsible for how badly someone chooses to treat you. But it does mean you have far more influence over this dynamic than most people realize. Because changing your own internal energy directly changes how safe or unsafe it feels for others to disrespect you in the first place. Here's something powerful to understand. This shift isn't about becoming harsh, cold, or intimidating. Some of the most respected people in the world are also some of the kindest, warmest individuals you'll ever meet. The difference isn't kindness versus harshness. It's the presence of genuine self-respect underneath that kindness. A quiet inner boundary that simply doesn't bend, no matter how nice or accommodating the person appears on the surface. So the very first step in this entire transformation is recognizing where in your own life you might be unconsciously signaling that you're an easy target, whether through over-apologizing, shrinking your voice, tolerating small disrespects repeatedly, or constantly prioritizing everyone else's comfort over your own boundaries. Once you can see this clearly, you're ready to begin building the internal presence that naturally commands respect, without ever needing to force it. Building the foundation, self-respect before external boundaries. Before you can expect anyone else to respect you consistently, there's a foundational piece that has to be built first, and it happens entirely within you. This is your own relationship with self-respect. Because no external boundary, no matter how firmly stated, will hold up if it isn't backed by genuine internal conviction. Here's something important to understand. Many people try to skip straight to setting firm boundaries, saying no more often, speaking up in confrontations, without first addressing the deeper issue underneath. And often, these boundaries feel forced, shaky, or inconsistent, because internally, the person still doesn't fully believe they deserve to be treated with respect in the first place. People can sense this hesitation, even if it's subtle, and it often weakens the very boundary being set. The first step in building this foundation is honestly examining your own internal dialogue about yourself. Notice how you speak to yourself, especially after a mistake, a disagreement, or a moment where you felt disrespected. Do you immediately blame yourself, assume you probably deserved it, or convince yourself that speaking up would have been too much or dramatic? This internal pattern often mirrors and even reinforces exactly how others end up treating you. Here's a powerful practice to begin shifting this. Whenever you notice harsh, self-critical thoughts arising, especially around situations where you were treated poorly, pause and ask yourself, would I accept someone speaking to a person I deeply respected this way? If the answer is no, that's a clear sign your internal dialogue needs to shift toward more self-respect rather than automatic self-blame. The second step involves consciously changing how you value your own time, energy, and opinions in daily interactions. This might mean no longer immediately saying yes to every request, even when it's inconvenient for you. It might mean allowing yourself to express a differing opinion in conversation, rather than automatically agreeing just to avoid discomfort. Each small moment where you honor your own needs and perspective, rather than dismissing them, builds the internal foundation needed for others to naturally sense and respect your boundaries as well. A third important practice is recognizing and interrupting the habit of over-explaining or over-justifying simple decisions. Notice how often you feel the need to give lengthy explanations for basic choices, why you can't attend something, why you disagree with an idea, why you need something changed. People who are deeply secure in their own self-respect rarely feel compelled to over-explain simple decisions. Practicing shorter, calmer responses, without excessive justification, reinforces both your own internal confidence and how others perceive your boundaries. Here's something crucial to understand about this foundational work. Self-respect isn't about becoming arrogant, dismissive of others, or unwilling to compromise. It's simply about holding an internal baseline where you genuinely believe your time, feelings, and boundaries matter just as much as anyone else's. No more, no less. This balanced internal stance is what naturally radiates outward, creating the kind of presence that makes careless disrespect feel instinctively wrong to others, without you ever needing to demand it aggressively. As you continue strengthening this internal foundation, you'll notice something interesting begin to happen even before you consciously change any external behavior. People may start treating you slightly differently already, responding a bit more thoughtfully, hesitating slightly before making careless comments, simply because your internal shift in self-respect is already subtly changing the energy you project, even before you've explicitly addressed a single external boundary yet. Mastering your body language and physical presence before a single word leaves your mouth, people are already reading you. Your posture, your eye contact, the way you enter a room, all of this communicates volumes about how you expect to be treated, often more powerfully than anything you actually say. Here's something most people don't realize. Disrespect often gets tested non-verbally first. Someone might interrupt you, take a slightly dismissive tone, or make a subtle careless comment, specifically to gauge your physical and emotional reaction before deciding how far they can push further. If your body language immediately shrinks, tenses up defensively, or shows visible anxiety, this often unconsciously signals permission to continue. The first practical shift here involves your posture. Notice how you naturally stand and sit throughout your day. Are your shoulders slightly hunched? Your body slightly folded inward, as if trying to take up less space? Or do you naturally stand tall, shoulders relaxed but open, taking up the space that's genuinely yours? This isn't about forcing an aggressive, puffed-up posture. It's about naturally relaxed confidence, standing tall without tension, grounded without rigidity. The second important element is eye contact. Many people, especially those who've experienced repeated disrespect, unconsciously avoid direct eye contact, particularly during moments of tension or disagreement. This avoidance often unconsciously signals discomfort or submission. Practicing calm, steady eye contact, not intense staring, but relaxed, confident engagement, communicates that you're fully present and unbothered, rather than anxious or avoidant. Third crucial practice involves your speaking pace and tone, particularly during moments of tension or disagreement. People who lack self-assurance often speak faster when nervous, their voice slightly rising in pitch, words tumbling out quickly as if trying to get through an uncomfortable moment as fast as possible. Practicing slower, calmer speech, even during difficult conversations, communicates control and confidence far more powerfully than rushed, anxious explanations ever could. Here's a specific technique that dramatically shifts how people perceive you in tense moments. The next time someone says something dismissive, disrespectful, or careless toward you, resist the urge to immediately respond. Instead, pause for just 2 or 3 seconds, maintaining calm eye contact before responding. This brief pause communicates that you're not reacting from anxiety or fear, you're simply choosing your response deliberately, which naturally commands more respect than an immediate flustered reaction. Physical stillness also plays an important role here. Notice if you tend to fidget, cross your arms defensively, or physically shrink when feeling uncomfortable or disrespected. Practicing physical stillness, keeping your body relaxed and grounded even during tense moments, reinforces an internal sense of calm control, which others naturally pick up on, even subconsciously. Here's something important to understand about all of these physical shifts. They're not about performing confidence you don't genuinely feel. In fact, trying to fake overly aggressive body language without genuine internal security often comes across as unnatural or even more vulnerable to careful observers. Instead, these physical practices work best when paired with the internal self-respect work from the previous step, allowing your body language to become a natural, authentic reflection of the genuine confidence you're building internally, rather than a performance you're putting on externally. As you consistently practice these physical shifts, standing taller, maintaining calm eye contact, speaking slower, pausing before reacting, remaining physically still under pressure, you'll likely notice people's behavior toward you beginning to shift as well, often without either of you consciously realizing exactly why, simply because your entire physical presence now communicates a completely different, far less penetrable energy than before. The art of the calm, unbothered response. One of the most powerful tools in commanding respect is learning how to respond calmly, even unbothered, when someone attempts to disrespect you. This single skill, more than almost anything else, determines whether someone continues testing your boundaries or quickly learns that doing so simply isn't worth the effort. Here's why this matters so deeply. When someone disrespects you, whether through a rude comment, a dismissive tone, or a careless action, they're often unconsciously watching for your emotional reaction. If you respond with visible anger, defensiveness, or anxious over-explaining, this often provides exactly the reaction they were subtly seeking, sometimes even reinforcing their behavior, because they've successfully gotten a rise out of you. The first practical technique here is what I call the calm pause and reflect approach. When someone says something disrespectful, instead of immediately reacting emotionally, pause briefly, then calmly reflect their statement back to them as a simple question. For example, if someone makes a dismissive comment about your work, you might calmly respond, "That's an interesting thing to say. What did you mean by that exactly?" This response remains completely calm and non-defensive, while subtly putting the responsibility back on them to explain or justify their disrespectful comment, often causing them to reconsider their words entirely. The second important technique is mastering the neutral response. This means responding to disrespect with a calm, brief, almost unaffected tone, rather than an emotional reaction. If someone tries to embarrass you publicly or make a rude comment, a simple, calm response like "okay" or "noted," delivered with genuine calm rather than sarcasm, often disarms the situation far more effectively than a lengthy defensive explanation. This calm brevity communicates that their comment simply didn't land the way they hoped it would. A third powerful practice is learning to sit comfortably with silence after someone says something disrespectful, rather than immediately filling the uncomfortable space with nervous explanation or justification. Many people rush to fill silence after a tense moment, which often signals discomfort and anxiety. Instead, practice allowing a few seconds of calm silence after a disrespectful comment, maintaining steady eye contact before responding, or sometimes not responding verbally at all. simply moving forward calmly with what you are doing. Here's something crucial to understand about maintaining this calm, unbothered energy. It doesn't mean suppressing your genuine feelings or pretending disrespect doesn't affect you internally. It's completely natural to feel hurt, frustrated, or upset when someone treats you poorly. The goal isn't to eliminate these feelings. It's to avoid displaying an immediate, visible emotional reaction in the moment, which often only escalates the situation or reinforces disrespectful behavior. A fourth practice involves choosing your battles wisely, rather than reacting to every single instance of mild disrespect immediately. Sometimes the most powerful response is simply calm indifference, not giving someone the emotional reaction they were seeking, while quietly noting the behavior and adjusting your own boundaries around that person moving forward, without necessarily making it into an immediate, dramatic confrontation every single time. Here's why this calm, unbothered approach works so effectively over time. People who repeatedly try to disrespect others are often unconsciously testing for an emotional reaction that validates their behavior or gives them a sense of power. When you consistently respond with calm, unaffected energy, rather than visible distress or anger, you remove the psychological reward they were unconsciously seeking, which often causes this behavior to naturally decrease over time, simply because it's no longer producing the reaction they were looking for. Learning to speak with direct, calm clarity. Alongside body language and calm emotional responses, the actual words you use and how directly you use them play a massive role in whether people feel comfortable disrespecting you or not. Many people who struggle with being taken seriously share a common pattern. They speak with excessive hedging, apologizing, or vague language that unconsciously signals uncertainty and low self-worth. Here's what this often looks like in daily conversation. Saying things like, "This might be a silly question, but," before every genuine concern. Starting sentences with, "I'm probably wrong, but," even when expressing a valid, well-thought-out opinion. Ending statements with an upward inflection, almost turning every sentence into a question, as if constantly seeking approval for simply having a thought or opinion. This pattern of speech, even when the actual content is completely reasonable, often unconsciously signals to others that you don't fully believe in your own perspective, making it easier for people to dismiss or disrespect your input. The first practical shift here is eliminating unnecessary qualifiers before stating your genuine thoughts or needs. Instead of saying, "This might sound weird, but I think we should approach this differently," simply state, "I think we should approach this differently." This isn't about being harsh or overly blunt. It's about trusting your own perspective enough to state it directly without constantly undermining yourself before you've even finished speaking. The second important shift involves replacing over-apologizing with simple, direct acknowledgement. Many people say "I'm sorry" reflexively, even for things that don't require an apology, like asking a clarifying question, expressing a differing opinion, or simply needing something repeated. Instead of "Sorry, can you repeat that?" try simply saying "Can you repeat that?" This small shift, removing unnecessary apologies for completely normal, reasonable requests, significantly changes how confidently you come across in conversation. A third crucial practice is learning to state your boundaries clearly, without excessive justification or lengthy explanation. If someone asks you to do something that doesn't work for you, instead of providing an elaborate, nervous explanation for why you can't, practice simply stating, "That doesn't work for me," or "I'm not able to do that." You can offer a brief reason if genuinely relevant, but avoid the common habit of over-justifying simple boundaries as if you need to earn permission to have them in the first place. Here's something important to understand about this direct, clear communication style. It doesn't mean becoming cold, rude, or dismissive toward others. In fact, the most respected communicators are often warm and kind, while still speaking with clear, confident directness. The key difference is removing the excessive hedging, apologizing, and uncertainty from your language while still maintaining genuine warmth and respect toward the person you're speaking with. A fourth practice involves pausing briefly before responding in conversations, rather than immediately filling silence with rushed, anxious words. This brief pause, even just a second or two, allows you to respond thoughtfully and clearly, rather than nervously rambling in an attempt to quickly fill uncomfortable silence. Over time, this creates a noticeably calmer, more deliberate speaking pattern that people naturally associate with confidence and self-assurance. As you consistently practice speaking with this direct, calm clarity, removing unnecessary qualifiers, unnecessary apologies, and excessive justification, you'll notice people naturally beginning to take your words more seriously. This isn't because you've become harsh or aggressive, it's because your communication style now genuinely reflects the same internal self-respect and confidence you've been building throughout this entire journey, making careless disrespect feel increasingly out of place around your calm, clear presence. Setting boundaries through actions, not just words. Words alone, no matter how confidently spoken, only go so far if they aren't consistently backed by action. This is one of the most important lessons in commanding genuine respect. People learn far more from what you actually do in response to disrespect than from what you simply say you will or won't tolerate. Here's a pattern many people fall into without realizing it. They clearly state a boundary: please don't speak to me that way, or I need you to be on time. But then, when the boundary gets crossed again, they let it slide without any real consequence, hoping the person will simply remember and change on their own. Over time, this teaches the other person that your stated boundaries don't actually carry any real weight, because nothing changes even when they're ignored. The first practical shift here is ensuring that any boundary you state is followed by a clear, consistent action if it's violated. This doesn't necessarily mean dramatic consequences every time. Sometimes it's as simple as calmly ending a conversation if someone continues speaking disrespectfully, or leaving a situation if a boundary is repeatedly ignored. The specific action matters less than the consistency. People learn respect through pattern recognition, noticing that when they cross a line, something genuinely changes in how you engage with them afterward. The second important practice is following through on smaller boundaries consistently, rather than only reacting strongly to major disrespect while letting smaller instances slide repeatedly. Many people wait until disrespect becomes severe before finally addressing it, but by that point the other person has already learned through months or years of smaller unaddressed moments that you're generally an easy person to walk over. Addressing smaller boundary violations calmly and consistently right from the beginning prevents this pattern from ever fully forming in the first place. A third crucial element is being willing to accept some initial discomfort or pushback when you begin enforcing boundaries you haven't consistently enforced before. If you've allowed certain behaviors for a long time and then begin addressing them directly, some people may initially react with surprise, confusion, or even mild resistance, testing whether this new boundary is genuine or temporary. Staying calm and consistent during this initial testing period is essential, because backing down at this stage often reinforces that your boundaries are negotiable if someone pushes back hard enough. Here's something important to understand about this process. Setting boundaries through consistent action isn't about punishing people or being unnecessarily harsh. It's about creating a clear, reliable pattern that helps everyone around you understand exactly what is and isn't acceptable in how they treat you. Ironically, this clarity often makes relationships more comfortable and secure over time, rather than more tense, because people no longer have to guess where your limits actually are. A fourth practice involves recognizing that walking away, whether from a conversation, a situation, or in more serious cases, an entire relationship, is sometimes the most powerful boundary enforcing action available. Not every situation requires elaborate explanation or confrontation. Sometimes simply and calmly removing yourself from a disrespectful situation communicates far more than any words could, showing clearly that certain behavior simply won't be tolerated in your presence, without needing to escalate into unnecessary conflict or argument. As you begin consistently backing your stated boundaries with real calm action, you'll notice something significant shift in how people treat you over time. The words you speak start carrying genuine weight, because people learn through experience that when you say something matters to you, your subsequent actions reliably reflect that. This consistency between your words and actions becomes one of the most powerful, undeniable signals of self-respect that naturally commands respect from others in return. Handling people who repeatedly test your new boundaries. As you begin building this new presence, consistently practicing calm confidence, direct communication, and firm boundaries backed by action, you'll inevitably encounter people who don't immediately accept this change. Some individuals, especially those who benefited from your previous passivity, will actively test whether this new version of you is genuine or temporary. Here's something important to understand about this testing phase. It's completely normal, and in many ways it's actually a necessary part of the process. People who are used to a certain dynamic with you, one where disrespect went unaddressed, don't simply accept a sudden change without some resistance. This resistance isn't necessarily malicious. It's often an unconscious attempt to restore the familiar dynamic they've grown comfortable with. The first thing to recognize during this testing phase is that increased pushback initially often means your new boundaries are actually working, not failing. When someone who previously disrespected you without consequence suddenly faces a calm, firm boundary for the first time, their first reaction is often to push harder, testing whether you'll cave under pressure like you may have before. This is precisely the moment where consistency matters most. The second important practice here is recognizing common testing patterns, so you're not caught off guard when they occur. This might look like someone suddenly acting more dramatically upset than usual when you enforce a boundary, accusing you of being different or cold now, or attempting to guilt trip you by bringing up how things used to be between you. Understanding that this is a predictable pattern, rather than genuine evidence that you're doing something wrong, helps you stay grounded during these uncomfortable moments. A third crucial practice is responding to this pushback with the same calm, unbothered energy you've been building throughout this entire process, rather than either aggressively defending yourself or immediately backing down out of guilt. A simple, calm response like, "I understand this feels different, but this is how I need things to be moving forward," delivered without excessive apology or lengthy justification, reinforces that this change is genuine and permanent, not a temporary phase that will fade under enough pressure. Here's something particularly important to understand about guilt during this phase. Many people, especially those with a strong pattern of people-pleasing, feel intense guilt when someone reacts negatively to their new boundaries, wondering if they're being too harsh or unfair. It's crucial to recognize that someone's discomfort with your new healthy boundary is not automatic proof that you're doing something wrong. Often, this discomfort simply reflects their own adjustment to a relationship dynamic that no longer benefits them the way it used to. A fourth practice involves recognizing when someone consistently refuses to respect your boundaries even after repeated, calm enforcement. In these situations, it becomes necessary to seriously reconsider how much access this person continues to have in your life. Not every relationship can or should be preserved at the cost of your own self-respect and boundaries, and recognizing this is often one of the most important, though difficult, lessons in this entire journey. Here's the encouraging truth about this testing phase. It rarely lasts as long as people fear it will. Most people, once they genuinely understand that your new boundaries are consistent and permanent, adjust their behavior accordingly, often developing a newfound respect for you that wasn't present before. The relationships that survive this testing phase frequently become healthier and more balanced than they were previously, while the ones that don't survive were likely relationships built primarily on your previous willingness to accept disrespect in the first place. Why genuine confidence always outlasts forced intimidation. There's an important distinction to understand at this stage in your journey, one that separates lasting, genuine respect from temporary fear-based compliance. Some people try to command respect through intimidation, aggression, or dominance, and while this might create short-term compliance, it rarely creates the kind of authentic, lasting respect that silent, calm confidence naturally builds over time. Here's why this distinction matters so deeply. When someone respects you out of fear or intimidation, this respect is often shallow and conditional, existing only because they're afraid of a negative consequence rather than because they genuinely value or admire your presence. The moment this fear-based dynamic weakens, whether you're no longer in a position of power over them or the intimidation simply stops working, the underlying disrespect often resurfaces immediately, sometimes even stronger than before, because resentment has been quietly building underneath the surface the entire time. Genuine respect, built through calm confidence, consistent boundaries, and authentic self-assurance, works completely differently. This type of respect doesn't depend on fear or control. It depends on the other person genuinely recognizing your worth, your boundaries, and your self-respect, and choosing to honor these things because it feels right, not because they're afraid of what might happen if they don't. The first practical understanding here is recognizing the difference between commanding respect and demanding compliance through fear. Commanding respect involves clear, calm boundaries, consistent follow-through, and genuine self-assurance. Demanding compliance through fear often involves aggression, intimidation, or subtle threats, creating temporary behavioral change without any real internal shift in how the other person actually feels about you. The second important distinction involves examining your own motivation as you build this new presence. Are you developing calm confidence because you genuinely want healthier, more respectful relationships in your life? Or are you unconsciously trying to build intimidating power over others, perhaps as an overcorrection from previous experiences of being disrespected yourself? This internal check matters deeply, because building genuine self-respect creates a completely different energy than building defensive, intimidating power. A third crucial understanding is recognizing that authentic confidence doesn't require making others feel small or inferior. In fact, some of the most genuinely respected people you'll ever encounter are also remarkably kind, warm, and generous toward others. Their respect doesn't come from putting others down or asserting dominance. It comes from a stable, secure sense of self-worth that simply doesn't require diminishing anyone else's worth in order to feel valid. Here's something important to understand about relationships built on intimidation versus genuine respect. Relationships built on fear often become exhausting to maintain, requiring constant vigilance and control to prevent the other person from testing boundaries the moment your guard drops. Relationships built on genuine mutual respect, however, tend to feel lighter, more sustainable, and more authentic over time, because both people genuinely value the relationship rather than simply avoiding negative consequences. A fourth practice involves regularly checking in with how your relationships actually feel as you continue building this new presence. Are people around you responding with genuine warmth and respect, even as you maintain firmer boundaries? Or do interactions feel increasingly tense, fear-based, or purely compliant without any real emotional connection? This ongoing reflection helps ensure you're building the kind of authentic, lasting respect this entire journey is truly designed to create, rather than accidentally shifting into a different, more controlling dynamic that ultimately isn't sustainable or fulfilling. Applying this presence in family and workplace dynamic, some of the most challenging places to build this new respected presence are within family systems and workplace environments, precisely because these relationships often come with long-established patterns, sometimes going back years or even decades. Understanding how to navigate these specific dynamics is essential, because generic confidence advice often doesn't account for the unique complexity these relationships involve. Here's why family dynamics can be particularly challenging. Family members often have deeply ingrained expectations about your role within the family system, perhaps as the accommodating one, the peacemaker, or the person who always adjusts to keep things comfortable for everyone else. When you begin asserting healthier boundaries within this system, it can feel like you're disrupting an entire established order, not just changing one individual relationship. The first practical approach within family settings is starting with smaller, lower-stakes boundaries before addressing larger, more emotionally charged patterns. Rather than immediately confronting a decades-old family dynamic, begin with smaller moments, calmly declining a request that doesn't work for you, or gently redirecting a conversation that starts veering into disrespectful territory. This allows both you and your family members to gradually adjust to this new dynamic, rather than experiencing one overwhelming, dramatic shift all at once. The second important practice involves recognizing that family members may need more time and patience to adjust to your new boundaries, simply because these patterns have been reinforced over such a long period. This doesn't mean tolerating continued disrespect indefinitely, but it does mean maintaining calm consistency, understanding that lasting change within family systems often happens more gradually than in newer relationships. Within workplace environments, the dynamics shift slightly, but the core principles remain the same. Here, professional boundaries become particularly important, learning to calmly decline additional responsibilities that fall outside your role, addressing colleagues who consistently take credit for your work, or speaking up respectfully but firmly when your ideas are dismissed or overlooked in meetings. A third crucial practice in professional settings is documenting patterns of disrespect when appropriate, particularly in situations involving repeated boundary violations from colleagues or supervisors. While maintaining calm, direct communication in the moment remains important, having a clear record of ongoing issues can be valuable if the situation eventually requires more formal intervention through appropriate channels. Here's something important to understand about workplace confidence specifically. Being professionally assertive doesn't mean becoming difficult to work with or refusing reasonable requests. It means clearly communicating your capacity, calmly addressing situations where credit or recognition is unfairly withheld, and maintaining professional boundaries around your time and workload, all while remaining collaborative and respectful toward colleagues who treat you appropriately in return. A fourth practice, relevant to both family and workplace settings, involves choosing your moments carefully, recognizing that not every single boundary needs to be addressed immediately or publicly. Sometimes a private, calm conversation is far more effective than addressing an issue in front of an entire family gathering or workplace meeting, allowing the other person to receive the message without feeling publicly confronted, which often increases the likelihood of a genuinely positive shift in behavior. As you continue applying these calm, confident boundaries within family and professional environments, you'll likely notice these specific relationships gradually shifting toward healthier, more respectful dynamics, even if the process takes longer than in newer relationships, simply because you're now consistently showing up as a fundamentally different, more self-assured presence within systems that have known you for a very long time. Recognizing and healing the root cause of attracting disrespect. Up to this point, we've focused heavily on practical techniques, body language, communication style, boundary enforcement. But there's a deeper layer worth exploring. Understanding the actual root cause of why certain patterns of accepting disrespect developed in the first place. Without addressing this deeper root, surface-level techniques alone often feel exhausting to maintain long-term. Here's something important to understand. Patterns of accepting disrespect rarely start in adulthood. They typically form much earlier, often in childhood or adolescent experiences, where a person learned, consciously or unconsciously, that their needs, opinions, or boundaries were less important than keeping others comfortable, or that expressing disagreement led to conflict, rejection, or punishment. This might look like growing up in an environment where speaking up led to being dismissed or punished, where love and acceptance felt conditional on being agreeable and accommodating, or where conflict was so distressing that a child learned to avoid it entirely by becoming excessively compliant. These early experiences create deep, often unconscious beliefs, like my needs don't matter as much as everyone else's, or keeping the peace is more important than my own boundaries. The first step in addressing this root cause is simply becoming aware of where these patterns may have originated. This isn't about blaming anyone from your past, but rather understanding, with compassion toward yourself, why certain reflexive behaviors, like over-apologizing or avoiding conflict entirely, developed as genuine survival strategies at some point in your life. The second important practice is recognizing that these old survival strategies, while perhaps necessary in childhood, are often no longer serving you as an adult. What once protected you from conflict or rejection in a specific environment may now be the very thing preventing you from receiving the respect and boundaries you deserve in your current relationships and situations. A third crucial practice involves gently challenging these old core beliefs whenever they arise. When you notice yourself automatically assuming your needs are less important, or that speaking up will lead to unbearable conflict, pause and ask yourself, is this belief actually true in my current situation, or is this an old pattern from a different time in my life? This distinction helps you respond to present situations based on current reality, rather than outdated survival strategies from your past. Here's something particularly important to understand about this healing process. It's completely normal for old patterns to resurface, even after significant progress, particularly during high-stress situations or with specific people who remind you, even unconsciously, of earlier experiences where these patterns first formed. Recognizing this connection, rather than judging yourself harshly for occasionally slipping back into old behavior, allows for more compassionate, sustainable healing over time. A fourth practice, particularly valuable for deeper patterns rooted in significant childhood experiences, is considering support from a therapist or counselor who specializes in these areas. While the practical techniques covered throughout this journey are powerful, sometimes root causes connected to deeper past experiences benefit significantly from professional guidance, helping you process and heal these patterns at a deeper level than self-guided practice alone can always fully address. As you continue exploring and gently healing these deeper root causes, Alongside the practical techniques we've covered, you'll likely notice your new confident presence beginning to feel more natural and sustainable, rather than something requiring constant conscious effort. This is because you're no longer just changing surface-level behavior, you're genuinely healing the deeper beliefs that originally caused these patterns of accepting disrespect to develop in the first place. The permanent shift, becoming someone disrespect, simply doesn't reach. We've covered an entire deep journey together, understanding why disrespect targets specific energy, building self-respect as your foundation, mastering body language, learning calm, unbothered responses, speaking with direct clarity, backing boundaries with real action, handling people who test these new boundaries, understanding the difference between genuine confidence and intimidation, applying this presence within family and workplace dynamics, and finally, healing the deeper root causes underneath these patterns. Now, let's bring this all together into the final, permanent understanding. Here's the truth that ties this entire transformation together. You will never fully control how every single person chooses to treat you. No matter how much genuine self-respect and calm confidence you build, will still occasionally act carelessly, disrespectfully, or thoughtlessly, simply because that reflects who they are. It's not a flaw in your own presence or worth. This is important to accept, because chasing a version of yourself that guarantees perfect treatment from absolutely everyone isn't realistic, and isn't actually the true goal of this work. What genuinely changes through this entire process isn't other people's behavior directly. It's your own relationship with yourself, and how naturally, effortlessly, your presence begins filtering out sustained, repeated disrespect from your life. People who consistently disrespect calm, self-assured energy tend to naturally drift away over time, not because you dramatically pushed them out, but because your energy simply no longer offers the same easy access to mistreatment it once did. Here's the final, most important shift to understand. This entire journey was never really about making other people fear disrespecting you, even though that title captures the initial appeal of this transformation. At its deepest level, this journey has always been about you finally, genuinely valuing yourself enough that careless disrespect starts to feel completely out of place around your calm, grounded presence, almost like it simply doesn't know where to land anymore. This transformation, body language rooted in genuine calm, communication grounded in clear self-respect, boundaries consistently backed by real action, and a deep internal healing of old patterns, doesn't happen overnight, and it isn't a one-time fix you apply and forget. It's an ongoing relationship with yourself, one that continues deepening the more consistently you honor it. Through small daily choices, through moments of discomfort where you choose calm boundaries over anxious appeasement, and through patient, compassionate healing of whatever original experiences taught you that disrespect was something you simply had to accept. So from today forward, remember this: you were never meant to shrink yourself, over-explain your worth, or silently accept careless treatment just to keep others comfortable. As you continue building this calm, grounded, self-respecting presence, you'll find that disrespect naturally becomes rarer, not because you fought harder to prevent it, but because you finally became someone it simply doesn't know how to reach anymore. If this journey helped you understand how to build a presence that naturally commands respect, hit that subscribe button, because this is exactly the kind of transformation I share here regularly. Comment respected below if you're ready to start building this presence today. This has been Master Shen. Stay calm, stay unshakable. I'll see you in the next one.